Well, we can bring in Emmanuel Fontaine now, who is the Unicef Director of Emergency Programmes, and he joins me from the western city of Lviv in Ukraine. Thank you for coming on, for being with us today. The international community, of course, has been worried about the plight of children in Ukraine since the beginning of the invasion, but we are starting to hear the absolute worst now. In that guest who I spoke to previously, he said that he'd seen the remains of a child in Bucha. We're hearing multiple reports of children being killed in this invasion. Are children targets in this war?
Well, I would say civilians are targets in general, and so of course among them there are many children, and of course, you know, when there's a war like that, the children are caught in the middle, and so yes, we know that many have been killed, many have been injured, and even more actually been displaced. Great numbers of children have actually had to leave their homes over the past few weeks, and as we are speaking right now as well.
So they face displacement, the risk of being killed, as you point out. We heard from President Zelensky speaking yesterday at the UN Security Council, and he was speaking about children bearing witness to the rape of their own mothers. So talk to me about the psychological trauma that you're also seeing among these children.
Well, I mean, of course, the psychological trauma coming from being in war, and of course, even more so if you are a witness of atrocities committed against your own parents or anyone as well. But you could see, I mean, for the moment, we're starting to see, I was in Zaporizhia a couple of days ago, so starting to see some of the children coming out of some of the zones that have been particularly affected. The families, people are exhausted, they need help, they need our support, they need us to be there. And start to receive the kind of first psychological aid that is going to be so important. We're also in Kharkiv in the subway station trying to help children there. It's just going to be really important to help them fast, but also important to stop the violence as soon as possible.
As you're talking about the area of Kharkiv, which we know has been hard hit, Mariupol at the moment, it has been very difficult to get aid in. What have you been able to do? I know you're in Zaporizhia, which has been a place where some people leaving Mariupol have gone to. Have you been able to get aid in? What do you fear that you will find in cities like Mariupol?
Well, we have managed to get aid in some places, in Kharkiv, for example, in some other locations, Sumy and other places. We're trying, but it's of course too little. You know, we need to bring in more. We need to resupply the health facilities, make sure that they have what they need to deliver babies and to take care of young children when they're ill. We need to bring in the hygiene supplies that people need so much. Of course, going into towns that have not been served for a long time is terrible, because you see people in great need, and we will see more and more of that, and we will see more and more, which is even more worrying in a way. We'll see more and more people on the road having to leave their homes, leave everything behind, and frankly, with no real idea where to go. That's really what we heard in Zaporizhia, is people leaving and saying, we don't know where we're going, but anywhere is better than a place where violence is so strong and so prevalent.
But that puts them in a very vulnerable situation, doesn't it? When they're leaving home, they don't necessarily know where they're going. For those children who are internally displaced, or perhaps, you know, then crossing the border into another country, that means that the risks to their well-being actually doesn't stop there. Trafficking, exploitation, and so on.
Yes, unfortunately, it happens that unfortunately some people try to take advantage of these situations, and so it's particularly important to inform the children, the parents, the young parents who might be a bit lost. There are cases, when we were in Zaporizhia, for example, there was a case, a woman was telling us, she was a protection person there. She was telling us that a truck driver came with 3 children because the children had been handed over to him to bring them to safety. Fortunately, the man was a good person, and the person receiving them really helped them and placed them into safety. But things can happen, and so we need to inform everybody, and it's extremely important that the authorities in the countries neighboring Ukraine are fully seized of that. Register children as they pass, particularly when they're on their own, and make sure to follow them as much as possible and refer them to their services.